Three, two, one, action. Welcome back to episode 57 of As Seen on Screen. I'm Nicole.
I'm Gracie, and we're your source for entertainment news, reviews, interviews, and more.
You can find us wherever you watch your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. Well, welcome back to another week on the show. We are so happy you are here. Thank you for joining us as always. This week we have some fun things to go over in sequels and adaptation news. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with a film announcement and a director announcement with Mattel and Warner Bros. They have announced that Jon M will be directing a future live action Hot Wheels film. And I feel like this goes back to a few weeks ago when we were talking about Care Bear films. We were talking about a few different types of toy and Mattel films. So what do you think about this, Gracie?
Listen, I mean, I'm always here for anything Jon M. Chu does because, like, Wicked, pop off. I know there's lots more, but, like, Wicked is the moment. So we always hold space for that.
Nice.
Thank you. Here's the thing. I feel like ever since Barbie did so well, they've wanted to keep that going with whatever toy they can. Obviously, we've had Transformers. They weren't like actually based off of the toys. It
Right.
was like Transformers in real life. But Barbie was kind of the first, like, here's the actual toy in the real world, blah, blah, blah. So I don't really feel like we need a Hot Wheels film. I don't know what the live action Hot Wheels film would be. Would that not just be Cars, but Hot Wheels?
I mean, you'd think so. I don't know.
I don't know what to expect for this, but I feel like Jon would not have signed on to this if he wasn't confident in it.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope.
Deadline reported that all they do know at this point is that the film will focus on some of the toy companies' biggest cars, all the popular ones in the Hot Wheels lines. So I think that's interesting. You know, I think the most successful toy to screen adaptation, is this what we're calling this, would be American Girl. I loved
Oh,
movies.
oh my gosh, the original Olivia Rodrigo lore.
Right? Oh my gosh, my sister and I watched, did you ever watch I think it's called McKenna Shoots for the Stars?
Oh my
She's
God,
in
yeah.
this. Or Sage Paints the Sky.
They
Oh,
had so many celebrities that we didn't even know were going to be huge stars.
yeah.
It's the same as like they had the Bratz movie.
Yeah.
I take back now what I said about Barbie being the first because now I'm thinking of all these other ones. Um, wasn't live action, but we had like the Polly Pocket movies, which I loved.
Yeah.
So toys are always a good opportunity for movies. Obviously, we saw that with Toy Story. They're still making them, so something's working. But I there comes a point where you're like, what are we going to do about this toy? Like it's a car.
Well, yeah, and I think too with cars more specifically is there's so many types of car movies out there. Like you mentioned, there's Cars and like your animated Cars movies there. Or
Or
you
you have
have
like Fast and
the
Furious.
I was just gonna say the biggest, longest franchise I can think of is Fast and Furious.
Yeah, like I I'm thinking Fast and Furious when I think Hot Wheels because it's usually like the bougie cars. And everybody likes to pretend they're racing. So that's what I'm thinking. But if they're going with more of like the car creators, I could see it being like, remember how they made a McDonald's movie about how McDonald's was made? So I'm like,
True.
maybe it's like the lore of Hot Wheels, like the background of how
There's
it
the
was made.
title right there.
But I'm like, at that point, also, wouldn't it just be someone being like, I want a toy car?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like it's
I
nothing
think,
crazy, but hey, maybe we're wrong and it could be like the best piece of cinematic like essence we've ever seen.
well, car lovers should be happy because they will be fulfilled, especially if they like Hot Wheels.
Well, moving away from toys and on to some sequels, Roadhouse 2 is in the works. Like it's been talked about for a bit now since the first one came out, but there is more news on it now. Amazon MGM Studios is currently searching for a new director since Guy Ritchie has now exited this sequel, which I'm half shocked about, half not shocked about. Obviously, this first film did very well. It was a remake of the original Roadhouse during its first 2 weeks on the streaming service in 2024. It amassed over 50 million views, which isn't bad. But once again, it's a remake. There really wasn't a huge need for a Roadhouse 2. Um, there was a lot of controversy over it, just like some of the actors that were in it, and people didn't want such a beloved movie to be remade again. So I can see why he maybe exited, but I'm also like, what is going on? So it is unknown why he exited this sequel. But we'll see what happens with Roadhouse, whether it gets to stay or whether they leave it now.
I think it's interesting because these films, the first one in 2024 and now this sequel, have sort of been struggling in the director's department in the news because Doug Liman, who directed the first film in 2024, there was some controversy as the film was coming out because there was no theatrical release
Mm.
for Roadhouse, which reportedly originally there was supposed to be with the contracts, but then once we switched over to Amazon MGM Studios and there was that merger, reportedly that was one of the reasons for no theatrical release for the film, and it was only released to Prime Video. So there was some upset there, seemingly. And then, of course, Guy Ritchie now is exiting only after a few months of signing on to direct the sequel. So, I mean, they're struggling to fill that director's chair.
Maybe it's a sign. We should just leave it. It
I tend to agree with you on that one. I
was
did enjoy the
good.
one in 2024, but I think it's one of those movies that doesn't need a sequel. You know?
If the original didn't have a sequel,
Yeah,
why does the remake need a sequel?
I agree with that.
That is my question.
Moving into our last piece of news for the week here, Regé-Jean Page is set to star and produce in a new book-to-screen adaptation of Elissa Sussman's novel Funny You Should Ask at Apple. This will be a television series adaptation, and if you haven't read the book, according to Goodreads, the novel logline is a restless young journalist with big dreams interviews a Hollywood heartthrob, and 10 years later, it's clear that their time together meant more than meets the eye in this sexy, engrossing adult debut novel. You know, if that isn't the journalist's dream, I don't know what. No, I'm kidding.
We're
I'm
sitting
just
here,
kidding.
we're like, hey,
Just kidding. No, I love all I keep seeing on TikTok and Instagram people putting the pictures of Amelia de Molenberg and Andrew Garfield.
yes. I knew you were gonna bring that up, and I was like, oh, yes, we're here for it. She also did her F1 interview, which the chemistry is there. So that's what we need for this adaptation.
Damson understood what we were doing with Chicken Shop Date. He finally got the flirty vibes of it, and he did not hold back, which I loved.
Yeah, we need either that or the Andrew Garfield vibes coming out because it's not gonna work otherwise.
You know what? Shout out to Amelia because Amelia just kills it week or like guest after guest. She just had Idris Elba on there. Damson we just said was on there. My goodness, that girl is
Jonathan Bailey,
yes. Oh, she's
my
living the
man.
dream.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this year is killing it with book to screen adaptations. I mean, nothing will ever compete with, in my opinion, like the dystopian YA book to screen.
I so thought you were gonna say after.
No, as much as I love After, I meant like the Hunger Games, Divergent, Fault in Our Stars, all those era.
Yep, yep.
But we can get close.
We can get close. No, you know what? Honestly, this sounds so intriguing. I love it. It's so funny that like in early 2000s rom-coms how often the female lead was always like a magazine editor, a
Oh,
journalist of some sort. Like I'm thinking about how to lose
I
a
was
guy
a guy in
in
10
10 days.
days.
No, I personally, I'm biased, but I love that trope. I think it's great. So
I wonder why.
all here for this.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm adding it to my long to be read list, but I feel like we have some time to get this one done.
Yeah, I think you don't need to do this immediately. I think you're good for a little bit.
That is all the news we have for this week. But Nicole, what was your watch of the week?
Thank you so much for asking because I am so excited to talk about Superman. I saw Superman last night. Very happy to report that I really, really loved it. I have so many different talking points about the film. One thing that I loved, I kept seeing on social media before I went into it, was James Gunn talking about how he doesn't feel that every superhero movie needs to re-explain the backstory or like the origin story of each superhero type thing. So I really did like how this movie kind of jumps straight into Superman's story in this film specifically. We don't get the whole, birth in Krypton and like seeing him come to Earth and all that kind of idea, which you get it through dialogue. They talk about different things. We see kind of like a monogram thing with his parents in a little video. So I think you definitely, if you don't know the Superman backstory super, super well, you still understand it enough without them having to fully put it, spell it out on screen for you. So I really did enjoy how it just kind of went into the movie and the action started right away, which I really enjoyed about that. There are a few different scenes that really stuck out to me in this film. There's one where Superman is talking about what it means to be human and kind of talking about like I'm a human being too. And it's so powerful, and I really loved it. He's talking to Lex Luthor specifically in that scene, and I think it was just so well done. I saw an interview clip where David Cornswet was talking about how him and James Gunn kind of butted heads on how that scene should be filmed. And I really do think that that final product was so, so well done. It really pours through with emotion and love on the screen when you watch it. And it was just very emotional and moving. So I really enjoyed that scene specifically, as well as the ending. There's like a little kind of montage idea at the end of the film. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but just what they do with the emotionality in this film is so well done. It doesn't just feel like, your actions, punches are being thrown. You have all that, of course, but there is so much heart to this film, and I really loved how they incorporated all of that together. And I think it is so beautifully blent in with one another there. Crypto, our dog, our stellar on-screen dog. You know, it makes me so sad that he was not a real dog because I just fell so in love with him. There's one scene where I don't know if you've seen the picture, Gracie, but he's lying on Superman's chest when he's sleeping. Oh my goodness. I loved that so much. I think our whole theater together just went, oh. But no, Crypto stole some scenes for me. I loved him. He really came in clutch. So shout out Crypto. But besides Superman, of course, I loved Lois Lane. I love Rachel Brosnahan. She did a fantastic job of bringing Lois to life. Here we are again talking about our journalist trope we got. And Nicholas Hoult, I mean, as Lex Luthor was just incredibly well done. Last year he had such a great run in the theater with Journey Number Two and Nosferatu. If you haven't seen him in that, you've seen him in X-Men probably. He's just such a fantastic actor, and I really loved what he did with the Lex Luthor character in this film. And hopefully, I'm excited to see it going forward more from all of these characters. And even with the other characters we see in the Justice Gang, they call themselves in this film, with Green Lantern, just all of these characters, they do such a great job of making all these connections palpable with one another, and they really have good like mixing with everyone, and you really feel invested in each character. At least I felt very invested in all the characters in this film and how the story is drawn together in one. So I really, really appreciate what James Gunn has done with this film, how he's bringing new life to Superman and to DC as we see him going forward, holding the reins a bit on DC. So I'm excited to see what it looks like going forward. But I truly have nothing great things to say about Superman, so you should definitely check it out in theaters now. We also have another film to review this week, so thank you to our friends at Quiver Distribution and Katrina Wan PR for giving us early access to Saint Clare, which stars Bella Thorne. This hits video on demand and digital this Friday, July 18th. This film is for all of my horror lovers, my thriller, my mystery lovers. So Grace is shaking her head on the other side of the screen right
Hey, you know what? I'm here for a thriller. I'm here for a little bit of horror, but I just don't do a lot of gore
It's
or
true.
like
It's
jump
true.
scares.
It's true.
So we can compromise with this film, you know?
I agree. I agree. You'd be good with it. But basically, Bella Thorne's character Claire in this film calls herself kind of this self-proclaimed Joan of Arc. And she moves to this new town with her grandmother, and she's following the case of this mysterious disappearance of a teenage girl, and she slowly figures out how all of these missing girls have gone, how these all these girls have gone missing in this town over the past 3 decades. And it kind of seems to be ignored by the police and the rest of the town. And there's some interesting interaction she has with new classmates, with friends, with police officers and teachers at her school. So it's a very interesting case to see kind of this almost supernatural side that this film has when her character Claire is talking about how she is kind of a self-proclaimed Joan of Arc character. Like I said, she has a very big connection with God and spirits and ghosts, but then she also has this more in reality version of trying to figure out what is happening with the disappearances of these girls in this town. So it's a very interesting film to watch if you, like I said, love horror and mystery, thriller. There's not too much gore, so if you don't love gore, you're pretty much okay with that on this film. It's not too terrible. But like I said, that comes out video on demand and digital streaming this Friday, July 18th. This week, we've also had the chance to see an early screening of I Know What You Did Last Summer, a movie we've both talked about here a lot on the podcast. We're very, very excited about it, and we are seeing it this week. So let's go to our review. Well, we just got back from our screening of I Know What You Did Last Summer, thanks to our wonderful friends at Sony Pictures Canada. And Gracie and I are very, very happy to report that we honestly have basically nothing but great things to say about this film. We both really enjoyed it, and you guys know as far as sequels goes, prequels go, remakes, we go in a little skeptical. And we both went in with expectations today that we were like, okay, this is a sequel, set those expectations, and it far exceeded those expectations. So much so that we both said we might almost like this one better than the
In the
original,
first.
which is crazy, which is crazy. So I'm gonna hand it over to Gracie to share some of her thoughts first.
I mean, yeah, like you said, this might be my go-to before I would rewatch the first. Um, it's just such a good film. Like, obviously, we walked into it a little bit skeptical, but the cast was obviously super stacked going into it. I mean, you have two of the OGs, Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, but then you have all of these amazing actors and actresses. A big one that I know you and I both loved in this film, specifically with her character, was Madeline Klein. She was absolutely hilarious. She killed this role. I mean, the whole cast and just had such electric energy with each other. And the comedic timing mixed with like these gory kills were so good. Perfect ratio there. But yeah, no, I thought the script was one of the funniest things because it's very modern while not being like cringy. And the way the cast was able to portray this friendship and this friend group while still paying homage to the original obvious friend group is just so cool to see. And these characters were just so immersive. Like, I don't think there was a character that you didn't feel connected with, at least on my end. They were all very likable, very relatable. So I love the character aspect of it. As for like the film as a whole, I thought it was the perfect mix of slasher and mystery. I always love movies where you have to kind of like guess the killer. So that was a fun experience. Definitely kept us guessing until the end. Our wheels were turning.
On
Um,
our toes.
yeah, we were hooked, you could say.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it just kept you on the edge of the seat for the entire movie. It was like a 2-hour movie, but it went by so fast, in my opinion. Like,
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I really did enjoy the pacing of the film too, because I felt like the
yeah.
first act really set it up well to get to know who these characters are, who these new group of local Southport people are, because we don't know them, obviously. Like Gracie said, we have this whole new cast coming into it. And I think the pacing did a great job of setting that up and setting up what was happening, obviously, what incident occurred that they did last summer, what happened, and how it evolves into the second and third act. And I think they paced it really well.
Yeah, I have to agree. The pacing was great. Cinematography and location was great too. Like it's so cool how they explained how Southport has changed over the years and tied it in so seamlessly that it wasn't like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. But
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, honestly, I can't think of anything I really actually no, I can think of what I didn't like, but I'm not allowed to say what I didn't like. So we'll leave it at
No spoilers here.
no spoilers here, but yeah, maybe once the movie's been out for a while, we can debrief then. But Nicole knows what I'm talking about.
I would say to keep on the track of casting, like you were talking about, I loved Chase Sue Wonders in this. I think she did such a great job. Our two main girls, obviously, along with Jennifer Love Hewitt, Madeline Klein, like Gracie mentioned already. Chase, oh my gosh, they kept me captivated. I really loved their performance. They play two very different characters, but they play best friends in the film, and I think they both really killed their roles. I enjoyed how they kept us engaged as audience members into their side of their lives because, like I said, they're two very different personalities. They are two very different lives in their own like personal lives. So I think it was interesting to see their characters evolve and what happened to them, and then how they interact not only with each other but the rest of their group and within the town. So I really love Chase's performance specifically. But as for the one thing, I think something with slasher films that I did appreciate about this one is when you mix comedy and like slasher horror thriller, sometimes it can get lost of like that balance between the two, and sometimes it's too much comedy, maybe sometimes not enough with a film like this. And I think they did a really good job of balancing the two. But the humor sometimes did mesh a little bit too much into like the Gen Z humor and trying to
Yeah.
keep it very current and trying to relate to its younger, obviously, these newcomers of that don't necessarily aren't familiar with the original part of the franchise. But there was a little too much of that. But
Yeah.
you know what? That's okay. I didn't take away from how much I loved the film overall as a whole. And I did appreciate that that comedy and thriller horror line wasn't crossed, and they did a pretty good job of keeping that balanced. So I would say shout out to them for that. But honestly, the kills were great. They were gory and they were fun. They were fresh. I mean, obviously, we have the hook wielding, fish slicker, jacket wearing killer back at it. And they found ways to keep it fresh and fun for this new one, while also tying in so many things for OG fans to love. I mean, honestly, if you're a fan of the first or the sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer from 1998, they have so many tie-ins to both of them. And I think they did a really great job of paying homage to those first two films, but also respecting them and
Mhm.
not taking it out of context or kind of poking fun at it. They did a great job that if you like, I just watched the original last night, which was good because there's just specific scenes, specific locations, because obviously we're still in the original town, that if you know those first two films, you're going to be like, click into it right away and you're going to know what they're talking about or kind of poking at. So I did enjoy that. They did a good job of making this a new film and a fresh film while also making it fun for the people that love the originals.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what the future holds for this friend group and for Southport.
I totally agree. So you can check out I Know What You Did Last Summer in theaters this Friday, July 18th. Thank you again to our wonderful friends at Sony Pictures Canada, and have fun this summer at the theater.
Bye.
Gracie, what's your watch of the week?
I have not had a lot of time to watch anything this week, but I did do okay. I have a rewatch and then I have like a watch. I have been continuing The Waterfront on Netflix because I still have like I think two more episodes before I'm done. I stopped it for a minute to watch Squid Games, the last season on our last episode. So I'm back on the Waterfront grind and it's so addictive. I love this cast. I think everybody is just so talented. It's the type of acting where you forget that they're playing a character and it feels like you're actually just watching this family from like the outside. So I'm obsessed with the high stakes and the family drama, but the the way they all collaborate together and the way they bring the storyline together and it's kind of that push and pull of who's really the who's really the good guy and who's the bad guy, and that test of morals and what you would do for family is so intriguing. So I'm so excited to finish this season and hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets renewed for a second season because it's been doing really well on Netflix. I believe it's been #1 on their site for a few weeks now. So congratulations to that entire team. As for films, I rewatched How to Train Your Dragon 2, but I also rewatched Suicide Squad, the original. Um, and I kind of forgot like how crazy it was, to be honest. Like it was so good at the time, like breathtaking, but I watched it this time and I was kind of like underwhelmed.
Fair. I mean, you knew what to
Um,
expect.
yeah, yeah, but the soundtrack still phenomenal. Like I don't know how they got all these random people together, but I that soundtrack is now on my list of repeats for this week. So if you're looking for a good soundtrack, Suicide Squad.
Love it. Well, moving into our next segment, what is your song of the week following suit here?
Suicide Squad's been a real one this week. Just the album.
Not the soundtrack, too.
It's a good soundtrack. Revolving Door by Tate McRae has made its
Banger.
way back onto my playlist again. Kind of disappeared for a bit. I don't know why, but it popped back up and I was like, oh, this is so good. Tate McRae is just so talented and Canadian. We love supporting Canadian women. Like she's just so talented. But yeah, I love her and trying to get concert tickets, so pray for me.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, really. But what was your song of the week, Nicole?
My song of the week, I went and saw Coldplay in Toronto last week. So I'd been listening to their set list leading up to the concert, and I feel like I just keep listening to it now too. But I love their song All My Love, which I hadn't discovered until more recently. And I was listening to it, and I kept putting on a repeat and hearing it live. Oh, was such a great experience. But I keep listening to that one song specifically. I mean, I love so much of their music, but All My Love has definitely been on repeat on my phone this week. Well, moving into our last segment of the week, of course, as always, our upcoming releases. Starting with today, July 17th, Untamed is on Netflix.
Also on July 17th, we have Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 on Paramount Plus.
Then heading into the box office this weekend, July 18th, we have Smurfs in theaters.
Also on July 18th and in theaters, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer, the reboot.
Then in theaters as well, we have Eddington.
Over on Apple TV Plus, we have Snoopy Presents a Summer Musical.
And rounding out July 18th, we have Saint Clare in limited release.
On July 23rd, we have Acapulco Season 4 on Apple TV Plus.
And ending it out July 23rd, we have South Park Season 27 on Comedy Central. Well, that's all we have to talk about this week, so thank you so much for sticking around and hanging out with us to talk all about the latest news and entertainment. We'll be back same time next week, but until then, I'm Nicole.
I'm Gracie, and you can watch or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube.
See ya!
Bye.